What is up, Ravens Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Flock Talk. Today we have it's going to be more like a rant style video, not like my normal content. So buckle in, because after watching today's disappointing loss to the Steelers, I just feel like I just got to rant. So if you could just bear with me for a few minutes, maybe you feel the same way. I would love to know how you feel after this disappointing game in the comments. But first off, just want to start out. I have to tip my cap a little bit, or a lot, to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I know after a loss, everybody wants to point fingers at, in this case, the Ravens or whoever their team is. And the Ravens certainly have a lot of blame and self, improvement they have to do going forward. There's no question about that. But it wouldn't be fair leaving this game to not credit the Steelers defense, because they did play. After that first quarter, they played lights out, and truthfully, they won them that game. The Steelers offense looked like we knew the Steelers offense was, and that's a below average offense through most of that game, minus a couple of drives they moved the ball. But the Steelers defense and the pass rush in particular really took over that game. So I have to give them credit where credit is due. Now that that's out of the way, what in the world did we just watch? I mean, that was like the ugliest game in recent memory. And we just watched them lose to the Colts 2 weeks ago. And after that game, I thought that was an ugly performance. And I thought about it even while I was watching the Steelers game. Those two games were kind of similar. The way they started, Baltimore started really good in both of those games. Offensively, they moved the ball down the field and scored. And what derailed the momentum for the offense in both of those games? It just happened to be a little later in this game than against Indy. Another fumble in both of those games. And I don't want to keep looking back to Indy, but in both of those games, they lost a fumble, and it just took the train right off the tracks, and they never recovered in either game. This was the sixth. I think they've lost 6 fumbles so far this season. They had 4 fumbles in this game alone, losing 2 of them. Now, I know the one Nelson Aguilar fumbled out of bounds. This team has an issue with holding on to the ball. At first, I wasn't that concerned about it. I'm like, especially, week 1, week 2, you're like, okay, some of these guys are just getting back to playing since January. It's going to take a minute. They're knocking the rust off. Guys, we just finished game 5, and they lost the ball 4 times. The Ravens took the game and handed it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was the most frustrating thing to watch, and I cannot, in the most simple way I can put it, they gave that game away. And I've thought about this even this week coming into this game. The Ravens, it doesn't matter who they have in or out, they seem to play to their competition. They can play the best team in the league. Remember 2021 when they played the Packers, when they played the future Super Bowl champ Rams, and like half the team was out, and they played both of those teams down to the wire. The Ravens will play hard no matter who they play, and that's one of the great things I can say about the players, the culture, the coaches. They always play hard. At the same time, when they play a team that they should beat, who is less than, they seem to play down to their competition. Case in point, Indy 2 weeks ago. Now, Indy right now is 3-2, same as Baltimore. But same case, the Ravens gave that game away just like they gave this game away. 3 turnovers in this game. A disaster at the end of the first half that left points off the board. Now, John Harbaugh came out in his post-game press conference and said that the intention was to kick a field goal, but it was a miscommunication, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's the second miscommunication that cost you a game. Remember the end of week 3. They didn't communicate to Zay that the time got switched when he should have ran the clock to the 2-minute warning and said he fair caught it, saved 40 seconds for Indy to get a game-time field goal. The communication seems to be an issue on this team. Holding on to the football seems to be an issue on this team. How many times, and I love John Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach, one of the best in the league. I'm not one of those people that sees a loss and is like, oh, he needs to be fired. I do like John Harbaugh. But how many times can you sit up there and say, well, the guys played hard, but we got to get the fumbles fixed. Fix it. It's been 5 games. Fix the fumbles. It's not like it's getting better. 4 fumbles today. That's terrible. In the one on Lamar, yes, Lamar should have stepped up in the pocket. The offensive line was getting beat to hell throughout that game. The Steelers' pass rush was getting home on a very consistent basis. It was not allowing Lamar time to sit back there and and read the defense and for the receivers to get open. They were getting home very consistently, and of course, led to another fumble. It was the most frustrating thing to watch, especially when they started out so well. And I don't know. It's this team has a turnover problem. And I haven't even talked about all the drop passes. I'm telling you, the Ravens did so much to keep the Steelers in this game. It's not even funny. I think the final was 9 drop passes. And if I'm not mistaken, they had 0 coming into this game. It's like, I think Zay was the first one to drop a pass, and it was contagious. It's like everybody got a case of dropping the ball after that. You talk about when it was 7-0 and they were back inside the 5, 2nd and goal. Mark Andrews drops. It would have been a tough catch, to be fair. It would have been a tough catch. Still hit his hands. Should have brought it down. He didn't. 3rd and goal. Lamar puts the ball right in the chest of Rashad Bateman. Right there. Right off the hands. They have to settle for a field goal. Well, there's a 4-point swing. And then you talk about the Justice Hill fumble that allowed Pittsburgh to get on the board. There's at least a 3-point swing, assuming the Ravens weren't about to go down and score. So we're 7 points now, plus the 3 points before the end of the half. So there's 10-point swing. I mean, it was just a disaster of all disasters to keep the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. Absolutely frustrating. The defense really played well through most of that game. Obviously, right after the safety, they gave up a drive that led to a field goal, and then they gave up the touchdown drive at the end of the game. The defense absolutely played good enough to win the game. You can't expect the defense to shut everybody out. The offense has to generate more than 10 points to win games. It was the most dysfunctional thing I've seen in quite a while. I want to know what you guys think. Am I blowing this out of proportion? I'm not pushing the panic button on the season. It was a game, but there are certain things that are becoming very concerning patterns for this team. Namely, holding on to the ball. It has to get cleaned up. You talk about if this team can start holding on to the ball, they'd probably be undefeated right now. But I don't doubt they're not practicing. I mean, I don't doubt they are practicing it. But it's like it's not translating into the game. And the Ravens defense can't generate turnovers at the same rate, or at least they're not generating turnovers at the same rate that the Ravens offense is giving them. How many extra possessions are they giving teams? And it's costing them games now. They should be 5-0. Here we sit 3-2, and got to go to London next week against a Titans team that's not great. But like I just got done saying, the Ravens seem to play to whatever their competition is. So I would be willing to bet it's going to be a hard-fought game down to the wire yet again. And then you go home against a very good Detroit Lions team. This team does not get a break at this point. They have to figure it out, and figure it out now. Because if they keep spotting teams, 2-3 extra possessions a game, this could derail fast. Now, I don't want to freak out and say that it's going to happen. I still have faith in this team. I'm just still frustrated after watching that game. So I just needed to get on here and just vent for a few minutes. I think I got most of it off my chest. We'll see. Let me know what you think. I genuinely want to know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it or agree with anything I said. Subscribe if you're new here. I'm going to try to keep you more consistent on here, posting throughout this week. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to me rant. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Go Ravens.